My email booked a family cruise for everyone except me. My name is Clara Hayes, and I'm a planner. I plan my freelance graphic design projects. I plan my grocery lists, and I even meticulously plan my husband Ethan's birthday surprises. But no amount of planning could have prepared me for the email that landed in my inbox 3 weeks ago. The email was from Brenda Vance, my mother in law, MIL. Brenda is an institution. She's the matriarch of the Vance family, wealthy, impeccably dressed, and possessed of a smile that can freeze water at 50 paces. She's never been exactly warm to me, but after 7 years of marriage to Ethan, I figured we had achieved a state of uneasy, polite truce. I was wrong. The subject line read, Family Cruise, Tropical Bliss, Details and Packing List. My heart immediately did a little flutter. Ethan had mentioned Brenda was organizing a big family trip for the holidays. I love cruises. This was my chance to finally relax and maybe even bond with the Vance clan. I opened the email. It was a masterpiece of Brenda's organization, detailing everything from the cabin upgrades she had secured on the Regal Seas to the cocktail reception dress code. The recipients were listed right at the top. Ethan Vance, Robert Vance, Brenda's husband, Aunt Carol, cousin Jeremy, and his wife Lindsay, and 20 others in the extended Vance network. Then down at the bottom, there was a separate personalized note from Brenda, addressed only to me, Clara, darling. I know how terribly busy you are with your design work, and honestly, the cabins are a bit cramped. We've arranged this as a special, intimate family bonding experience. Since you're technically not blood, and we wanted to keep the guest list very tight, we just couldn't squeeze you in this time. Do enjoy the quiet solitude while we're away. I'm sure you'll catch up on plenty of work. See you next year. Warmly, Brenda. I reread the email 3 times, staring at the phrase, since you're technically not blood, and we wanted to keep the guest list very tight, we just couldn't squeeze you in. My initial flutter of excitement had transformed into a cold, hollow ache. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an oversight. This was a calculated, weaponized exclusion. I stood up from my desk in our small Boston apartment, the air suddenly thick and hard to breathe. I walked into the kitchen where Ethan was making coffee, scrolling through sports highlights on his tablet. Hey, I said, holding out my phone. My voice was eerily calm. Did you know about this? Ethan took the phone, glanced at the screen, and frowned. Oh, the cruise email. Yeah, Mom sent out the confirmations. We're sailing to the Bahamas next month. Did you know I wasn't invited? Ethan took a long sip of his coffee. He looked at me, then back at the email, then back at me. He paused for maybe 3 seconds too long, a lifetime in a marriage. Well, she mentioned it, he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. She said it was a gift from the Vances to the Vances. You know how Mom is about blood. I figured we could just do something else when I got back. The hurt wasn't just the exclusion. It was Ethan's casual acceptance of it, his utter lack of defense for his wife. So the whole family, your cousins, their spouses, your uncle, everyone, is going on a 7-day tropical cruise, and I get to stay home and enjoy the quiet solitude, I asked, my voice rising. And you were okay with that? He set down his coffee mug, finally engaging. Clara, it's just a cruise. It's Mom's money. It's her party. What am I supposed to do? Start a fight with my mother and risk losing the whole trip for everyone? You were supposed to say, if Claire doesn't go, I don't go, I retorted, the calm now completely gone. You were supposed to defend your wife, Ethan. She didn't just exclude me. She made a statement that after 7 years, I am still not part of this family. Ethan retreated immediately, his eyes flashing with irritation. Don't be so dramatic, Clara. It's not a statement. It's Brenda being Brenda. Stop trying to make this into a bigger deal than it is. He walked out of the kitchen, presumably to call his mother and assure her that his wife was just being dramatic. I stood alone, staring at the bright, cheerful email on my phone. They had given me a week of solitude and silence, a whole week to think, to plan, and to realize just how isolated I really was. They wanted to leave me behind fine. They would regret leaving the planner at home. I sat down at my desk, logged into my email, and replied to Brenda's message, hitting reply all to every single Vance family member. My message was short, Brenda, Ethan. Thank you for the kind note. I wish you all a wonderful trip. As a special treat to myself, I'll be taking some time off too. I can't wait to hear all about the trip when you return. Warmly, Clara. Then I opened a new browser tab. I wasn't just planning my own week off, I was planning my own revenge. My initial sting of betrayal quickly solidified into a dangerous form of clarity. Ethan left for work that morning, still annoyed that it made the cruise a big deal, and Brenda's carefully worded exclusion note was still visible on my screen. The Vances had given me 7 days of solitude and silence. I decided I would use that time to make sure their tropical bliss felt like a slow-motion disaster. I started by listing my constraints and assets. The constraints and assets. Constraints 1, the money. I had a good income, but Brenda controls the majority of the Vance family money. I couldn't outspend her on a rival trip or bribe the cruise line. Constraint 2, the proximity. I would be in Boston. The cruise ship, the Regal Seas, would be sailing in international waters. Physical intervention was impossible. Asset 1, digital access. I'm a freelance graphic designer specializing in digital identity management. I know how to navigate databases, spoof emails, and most importantly, manipulate images and communication. Asset 2, Brenda's hubris. Brenda is meticulous but arrogant. She plans everything herself, meaning all the information, confirmation numbers, booking details, and itineraries exists in one central digitally vulnerable location, her email account. The target wasn't the ship itself, it was the Vance family's collective ego and their comfort. I spent the next 2 days building a comprehensive psychological and logistical profile of the entire cruising party using every piece of family gossip and every social media post I could find. Phase 1, the booking sabotage. The first goal was to undermine the sense of seamless luxury Brenda had planned. I needed to sow seeds of chaos right where they thought they were most secure their accommodations. I knew from one of Brenda's earlier bragging texts the exact email address and password she used for the cruise line's website. It was embarrassingly simple, Vance Cruise Best followed by her anniversary date. I logged in. The Regal Seas cabin map popped up. Target A, Jeremy and Lindsay, the compliant cousins. Jeremy is severely prone to seasickness, and Lindsay is claustrophobic. Brenda booked them a large midship balcony, the steadiest place. The switch. Anonymously called the cruise line's customer service, spoofing Brenda's phone number, claiming a clerical error on the family's seating arrangement. I switched Jeremy and Lindsay to a tiny interior cabin on the lowest deck right near the ship's engines. Maximum vibration and no view of the horizon. Target B, Aunt Carol, the vanity vixen. Carol is extremely image conscious and requires direct afternoon sunlight for her reading. Oh, the switch. I moved her from her forward facing sunny balcony to a portside cabin directly above the ship's main buffet exhaust vent. She'd get the smell of fried calamari and zero sunlight. Target C, Robert Vance, Brenda's husband. Robert, a former finance executive, has a terrible yet hilarious allergy to synthetic fabrics, especially cheap polyester. Oh, the switch. I changed the pre-ordered laundry service for Robert's cabin from premium Egyptian cotton to the ship's cheapest, stiffest synthetic polyester blend possible. A minor discomfort, but a persistent itch. I logged out. The Vance family would board the ship thinking they had premium accommodations, only to discover a series of petty, annoying, and deeply personal setbacks. Phase 2, the communication breakdown. The second phase was isolating Ethan. He needed to feel the absence of my planning and the weight of his mother's control. I created a sophisticated email filter aimed at Ethan's primary account. It wasn't designed to block Brenda's emails, but to delay and slightly corrupt them. Any email from Brenda containing keywords like itinerary, important, or dinner time would be held in a hidden folder for 4 hours and then released with a few critical scheduling details, slightly altered, e.g., changing dinner from 7:00 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., or the Bahamas excursion from Monday to Tuesday. Any email from me, Clara, would be delivered perfectly. This would ensure that Ethan's attempts to follow Brenda's rigid schedule would constantly be off by minutes, leading to arguments and frustration, while subtly making him rely on my pristine communication. As I closed my laptop, a sense of grim satisfaction washed over me. The Regal Seas hadn't even left port, and already their perfect itinerary was riddled with unseen errors. The exclusion was painful, but the revenge was going to be cathartic. I packed a small bag. I wasn't staying in Boston. If I couldn't be on their cruise, I would be on mine. I didn't stay in Boston. The day after I logged out of Brenda's cruise account, I booked a flight. My destination, Miami. I checked into a cheap, nondescript hotel near the port of Miami where the Regal Seas would embark. My room overlooked the massive, glittering ship, a constant mocking presence. I imagined Brenda, Ethan, and the rest of the Vances descending upon it like vultures on a perfectly prepared carcass. My digital sabotage had been subtle, designed to cause friction later in the trip. Episode 3 required a physical, immediate strike, a humiliation right at the moment of their triumphant arrival. Brenda's entire world revolves around appearances. The boarding process for the wealthy is highly orchestrated, complete with VIP lounges and customized signage, all designed to make them feel superior to the general riffraff. My target, the Vance family welcome banner. I knew Brenda had commissioned a massive custom printed banner to hang above their dedicated VIP check in desk, featuring a professionally shot, airbrushed portrait of the entire family. It was her way of establishing dominance from the moment they stepped onto the pier. I spent the morning in my hotel room, not with fabric or paint, but with my design software. I used my skills to create a perfect replacement file for that banner. But instead of the airbrushed photo, I substituted it with a piece of family history. Brenda thought she had incinerated a photo from a disastrous 1990s ski trip where the entire Vance family, including a teenage Ethan, wore matching awful neon green and hot pink ski suits. It was grainy, tacky, and perfectly hilarious. Operation Faux Staff. To execute the swap, I needed access. I couldn't just walk into the secured area. Using a blank ID card, a high-resolution printer, and my design chops, I fabricated a convincing Port Logistics Assistant ID badge for a C. Reyes, complete with a generic uniform jacket I bought at a nearby supply store. I tied my hair back and put on glasses, the ultimate disguise for someone who spends their life behind a monitor. 2 hours before the Regal Seas was scheduled for Vance boarding, I walked confidently into the chaotic port terminal. Everyone was stressed. Nobody noticed the quiet woman with a clipboard. I located the VIP check-in area for the Regal Seas. There it was, the blank, massive digital screen waiting to display Brenda's pride. A young, overworked port employee was struggling to load the Vance family's data packet. "Excuse me, I'm C. Reyes from Port Logistics," I said, putting on my most clipped, officious voice. "I received an emergency notification about a file corruption on the Vance banner. They have a custom font that conflicts with the main server. I need to override the file path immediately." The employee, already overwhelmed, practically shoved the tablet into my hands. "Oh, thank God, it's been glitching all morning." I plugged in my encrypted thumb drive, which contained only the heinous ski photo file. In less than 20 seconds, I swapped the path of the high-resolution original banner image with the low-res neon monstrosity. I then deleted the metadata showing my access. "It should be fixed now," I said, handing back the tablet. "If it freezes again, just reboot the system. It's an easy fix." I walked away and positioned myself near a duty-free shop just outside the secure entrance, clutching my clipboard like a shield. My heart was pounding, but my mind was laser-focused. The reveal. Precisely 15 minutes later, the procession began. A black stretch limo pulled up, and the Vance family spilled out. Brenda, immaculate in a white linen suit and a massive sun hat, led the charge. Ethan followed, already looking slightly stressed. They paused at the entrance to the VIP lounge, and there, towering above them, glowing in the bright Miami sun, was the digital banner. It flashed, "Welcome aboard, Vance family," and then the image appeared. The Vance family, 20 years ago, squinting in the snow, wearing fluorescent pink bibs and green jackets. Ethan looked like he was wearing a glow stick. The reaction was immediate and glorious. Brenda stopped dead in her tracks. Her hand flew to her chest, her face a mask of utter horror. That perfect frozen smile evaporated. "What is this?" she hissed, loud enough that several nearby travelers turned to look. "What is this abomination?" I provided a professional headshot. The younger Vances started to laugh awkwardly. Robert Vance, Brenda's husband, just sighed, already resigned to the chaos. Ethan was searching for the port employee. He looked stressed, embarrassed, and thoroughly annoyed, precisely the emotional state I had intended. I watched from the shadows. The banner wasn't just tacky, it was a psychological weapon. It proved that Brenda's meticulous control had failed before the ship even left the dock. Her perfect world was already showing cracks. I turned and walked calmly toward the exit, dropping my fake ID badge into a garbage can. As I reached the taxi stand, I pulled out my phone. I didn't call Ethan. I called the local Miami florist and ordered the most expensive arrangement they had, specifying delivery to the Regal Seas VIP suite. The message on the card read, "Thinking of you, Ethan. Enjoy the quiet solitude." Brenda had wanted a statement of exclusion. I had given them a neon welcome mat of humiliation, and the ship hadn't even set sail. I was back in my quiet Boston apartment, nursing a cup of tea, feeling zero regret about the neon ski suit banner. My physical presence was no longer required. The true battlefield was about to shift to the digital realm. The Vances were officially at sea. I knew that Brenda's strict rules about unplugging on vacation would clash violently with the younger Vance's addiction to Instagram and TikTok. My mission for episode 4 was to monitor the collateral damage and fan the flames of the already existing tensions. The Observer, I established a dedicated Vance Watch protocol, a specific feed on my spare laptop dedicated solely to tracking every public social media post tagged with the Regal Seas and any combination of the Vance names. The first reports of chaos were glorious. Cousin Jeremy's seasick target. Jeremy posted a blurry photo on his Instagram story, a picture of a life raft instruction card with the caption, "My cabin is giving me existential dread. Send Pepto." He was clearly miserable in the engine side windowless cabin I had switched him into. Aunt Carol Vanity Target. Carol, unable to resist posting, uploaded a photo of her meticulously applied makeup captioned, "Just a little sun kissed reading." The photo, however, was clearly taken under harsh interior lighting, and the background showed a wall of silver vent ducting the exhaust vent of the main buffet. Zero sun maximum calamari fumes. I smiled. The cabin switcheroo was working, petty but effective. The final piece of initial sabotage was the most important, Ethan. I saw his first post a photo of the opulent floral arrangement I had sent sitting forlornly in his cabin. The caption was non-committal, "Nice gesture from Boston." He hadn't publicly acknowledged Brenda's exclusion, but he hadn't defended her either. He was internally conflicted, and that was exactly where I needed him. The amplification. I couldn't directly interfere, but I could influence the narrative. I logged into a burner social media account I had created years ago for client feedback, an account completely untraceable back to me. Target Jeremy's seasickness. I commented on Jeremy's life raft story. "Awe is the lowest deck, engine noise too loud. Maybe you should have booked a midship cabin like the one cousin Ethan's wife recommended." The comment was subtle. It implied I had planned the trip, undermining Brenda's claim of complete control, and directly blamed the terrible cabin on Brenda's poor planning. Target. Aunt Carol's. Tan. I commented on Carol's sunless selfie. "The best light is always the afternoon light. Too bad your balcony faces north. Did you know the forward cabins get the best sun all day? Someone didn't read the deck plan correctly, lol." Again, the implication was clear. The subpar vacation experience was due to advanced logistical failure, not a coincidence. The escalation. The dinner time war. The real chaos, however, was about to begin, thanks to my email filtering strategy. Brenda had emailed the entire family about the formal dinner seating. I watched Ethan's email via the BCCs he had added to my filter. The original email stated, "Dinner at 7 p.m. sharp. Formal attire. We need the best group shot yet." My filter held the email for 4 hours, then released it to Ethan with the time slightly adjusted 7:30 p.m. I watched the clock, anticipating the chaos. At 7:05 p.m., I saw a flurry of texts and calls between Ethan and Brenda, all flagged in my system as "failed to connect" or "delayed receipt." 10 minutes later, I saw the social media fallout. Cousin Jeremy posted a photo of the empty reserved dining table captioned, "Where is everyone starting dinner without the latecomers?" At 7:25 p.m., Ethan posted a hurried, slightly shaky photo of himself in his tuxedo standing alone outside the main dining room. Almost time, looking sharp, waiting on the rest of the crew. At 7:35 p.m., the real bomb dropped. Brenda posted a high-resolution, furious-looking selfie on her Facebook, the one platform Ethan couldn't filter. Some members of the family seem to believe 700 p.m. sharp means 7:30 p.m. Punctuality is respect. The Vance tradition is not optional even on vacation. This will be addressed tomorrow morning. The message was clearly aimed at Ethan, confirming the dinner time delay had caused a major rift. Brenda was embarrassed and angry. Ethan, who thought he was right on time according to the corrupted email, was publicly shamed. The quiet victory. I watched Ethan's page closely. He deleted his "waiting on the crew" photo, almost immediately replaced by nothing. The silence was deafening. He had been blindsided and reprimanded by his mother, the very thing he was trying to avoid by not defending me. I decided to send him one single untraceable message from my burner account. "That's rough, man. Maybe next time, check the original invitation time." I knew the simple pointed message would hit home. It wouldn't blame Brenda directly, but it would imply that someone, the person who was deliberately excluded, knew the correct schedule, and that his reliance on his mother's filtered information was causing him pain. I logged out of all my monitoring tools. The first day of the cruise was a success. Brenda was stressed, the cousins were annoyed, and Ethan was isolated and feeling the consequences of his lack of loyalty. The Vances were now sailing on the regal seas. I, the planner left behind, was officially navigating the chaos from the shore. The cruise was halfway through its 7-day itinerary, and the ship had pulled into its first major port of call, Nassau, Bahamas. Brenda, needing to salvage the perfect family vacation narrative after the dinnertime debacle episode 4, had organized a highly publicized, all-inclusive luxury snorkeling and beach excursion at a private resort. This was her chance to force a picture-perfect group photo and reassert her dominance. I knew this was my last major window for a physical strike before they returned to international waters. The asset acquisition. I was still in Boston, but I had prepared for this moment. Weeks ago, under the guise of organizing Ethan's golf clubs, I had acquired two key pieces of information from his wallet. One, Brenda's preferred excursion company, Nassau Elite Tours. 2. Brenda's gold tier loyalty number. A. Reward system. Brenda used religiously for status perks. My plan was simple: overschedule the Vances and then misdirect the Vances' transportation. I logged into the Nassau Elite Tours booking site, again using a well masked IP address. I used Brenda's gold loyalty number to confirm the Vances booking, but I didn't confirm one booking. I confirmed 3 separate bookings for 3 different high demand excursions that overlapped perfectly. 7:00 a.m., deep sea fishing charter. Aunt Carol would hate the sun. 8:00 a.m., the private luxury snorkeling excursion. The actual family event. 9:00 a.m., the all day ATV jungle tour. Ethan, who hates dust, would loathe this. The goal wasn't to force them onto 3 trips. It was to ensure their names were on the manifest for all 3, creating confusion and making them miss the single critical window of their actual excursion: the transportation trap. The next step required pinpoint timing. Brenda had informed the Vances that a private white shuttle would meet them at the end of the pier at 8:00 a.m. sharp to take them to the private beach resort. I logged into a local Bahamian ride-sharing app. I didn't order a car for myself. I ordered 3 separate, brightly colored, highly conspicuous vehicles: a bright yellow minivan, the deep sea fishing transfer; 2, a large pink stretch Hummer limo, the ATV tour transfer; 3, a pristine white executive van, the official luxury transport which I had just canceled. I immediately sent a spoofed confirmation text using the Nassau Elite Tours header to Ethan's phone, which I knew he would finally check after the dinner fiasco. Confirmation. Due to overwhelming demand, your 8:00 a.m. private beach shuttle has been upgraded to the pink Hummer limo for the ATV jungle tour. Report to Pier C immediately. Enjoy the ride, the chaos on the pier. I watched the action unfold via a simple static webcam feed that streamed a live view of the Nassau Cruise Pier, a common feature for many ports. At 7:55 a.m., the Vance family, immaculate in their white linen and expensive sun hats, gathered at Pier C. Brenda, looking highly agitated, was directing traffic. At 8:00 a.m., the pink Hummer limousine kind, favored by bachelorette parties, pulled up to the white linen crowd. Brenda's mouth dropped open. She looked horrified. Ethan, seeing the official-looking text confirmation on his phone, stepped forward hesitantly. "Mom, the text says the shuttle was upgraded to this." "Ethan, we are not taking a tacky pink monstrosity to a luxury resort." Brenda shrieked, her voice certainly carrying across the pier, though I couldn't hear it. The embarrassment on her face was priceless. Just as Brenda was about to send the Hummer away, the yellow minivan, the deep sea fishing transfer, pulled up right behind the limo, honking aggressively. The Vances were now trapped between a garish pink limo and a rusty yellow van, while their actual pristine white shuttle was nowhere to be found because I had canceled it. Brenda, completely flustered, started arguing loudly with the Hummer driver. While she was distracted, cousin Jeremy, who had been dreading the heat, saw his chance. He quickly ushered his seasick wife Lindsay toward the pink limo. "This is probably just faster, Mom," he shouted, and they climbed into the garish vehicle, taking several other younger Vances with them. Brenda was left on the pier with Robert, Aunt Carol, and Ethan shouting at the disappearing pink limo. At 8:15 a.m., the actual private shuttle, which I had rebooked for a different family entirely, pulled up, filled with a group of cheerful, loud tourists, and pulled away, leaving the stranded Vances in its wake. The revenge photo. The pier webcam showed the final perfect image: Brenda, standing alone with her remaining family, her expensive linen wilting in the heat, looking utterly defeated next to a mountain of discarded luxury beach bags. The perfect group photo had become the perfect group humiliation. I decided to close the scene with a final subtle flourish. I logged back into my burner social media account. I didn't post the webcam feed. I went to the official Nassau Elite Tours Facebook page and commented on their main promotional photo. "Wow, great service today. Did you guys see the huge wealthy family stuck on Pier C because their mother can't coordinate a simple shuttle? Must be tough when money can't buy organization." I knew Brenda would be monitoring the resort's social media throughout the day, desperate to find proof of the family's presence. Instead, she would find a highly public comment confirming her embarrassing logistical failure on the pier. The Vances were officially stranded in Nassau, forced to spend their time haggling for a taxi while their perfectly planned tropical bliss was enjoyed by others. The next day, the ship was back in international waters, sailing toward its final destination. I was enjoying a quiet, productive morning in Boston, deleting the remnants of my digital sabotage. The only thing missing was the confrontation. I didn't have to wait long. Around 10:00 a.m., my phone rang. It was a blocked number, but I knew instantly who it was. The Vances had finally resorted to the ship's expensive satellite phone. I answered on the third ring. "Hello, Clara, where are you?" Ethan's voice was distorted by the satellite delay and thick with exasperation. He sounded stressed, hot, and furious. I'm home, Ethan, I replied calmly, setting the phone on speaker and leaning back in my chair. Enjoying the quiet solitude as your mother suggested. How's the tropical bliss? It's a disaster, Clara. A complete humiliating disaster. Yesterday, we missed the excursion because some idiot swapped our transportation. And before that, the dinner was a fiasco, and Jeremy is locked in his cabin crying because the engine noise is vibrating his bed. That sounds a bit eventful, I said, suppressing a smile. Maybe next time, Brenda should hire a professional planner. Don't play coy with me, Clara. This is beyond coincidence. That awful neon banner, the corrupted dinner time, the pink Hummer. You're the only person who had the skills and the motive to pull this off. I paused, letting the silence stretch across the thousands of miles of ocean. I knew I couldn't deny it. The admission was my final weapon. You're right, Ethan. I finally confirmed, my voice dropping to a serious cold tone. I did it. I switched the cabins, I filtered your emails, and I made sure your mother was humiliated at the pier. Ethan exploded. Are you insane? This is my family. This is Brenda's gift. You spent money and time just to ruin a vacation you weren't even invited to. I didn't ruin a vacation, Ethan. I exposed a systemic problem. I shot back, the hurt finally pouring out. Your mother deliberately and publicly excluded me after 7 years of marriage, citing I was not blood. She made a statement that I am disposable to the Vance family, and you stood by and let her. I told you it was just Brenda being Brenda. No, that is the excuse you use when you want to avoid conflict. The moment you let her publish that email to the entire extended family, the moment you agreed to leave your wife behind to enjoy her gift, you became her accomplice. You prioritized a free cruise and your mother's approval over my feelings and our marriage. The distortion on the line seemed to amplify the fury in my voice. I was no longer the quiet planner. I was the strategist unleashing the final payload. This entire cruise was built on a foundation of my exclusion, I continued. I simply made sure the foundation was shaky enough to collapse under the weight of Brenda's ego. You are experiencing the consequences of your lack of defense, not my pettiness. There was a heavy silence from his end of the line, broken only by the hiss of the satellite connection. He was processing the truth. The whole family knows you did this, Clara, he finally said, his voice quiet, defeated. They think you're crazy. They think you're vengeful. And what do you think, Ethan? He paused for another painful, drawn-out moment. I think the cabin switches were brilliant. Aunt Carol smells like fryer grease, and Jeremy hasn't slept in 3 days. And Brenda is furious. He let out a short, hollow laugh that held no humor. I also think I should have stayed home. This isn't a vacation. It's a televised family brawl, orchestrated by a disgruntled spouse. Then fix it, I challenged him. You let her make the statement that I am not family. Now you need to make the statement that I am. The terms of surrender. I didn't tell him to get off the ship or confront his mother. I gave him a clear, executable demand, a new set of planning parameters. Ethan, I want 2 things, and I want them executed before the ship docks in 3 days. I don't want an apology from Brenda, and I don't want a bouquet of flowers. 1, the public retraction. You will gather the entire family. You will film yourself or have someone film you and publicly state on whatever social media platform your mother uses to manage her image that I, Clara Hayes, am an essential and permanent member of the Vance family, and that leaving me out was a monumental mistake. 2, the final invoice. You need to figure out how to compensate me for the 7 days of work I put into planning the Vance disaster. That money will go to fund a vacation for just the 2 of us, one that you plan and pay for without a single Vance interference or consultation. I made the demands non-negotiable and public-facing. He couldn't hide his shame, and he couldn't hide the fix. If I do this, what happens? He asked. The sabotage ends, I said, and we start the hard work of fixing a marriage that you willingly left on the pier. Fail, and I'll make sure every single booking from your car rental back home to your dentist appointment becomes an unexpected public fiasco for the rest of the year. I hung up the phone before he could reply. The call wasn't just a confrontation, it was the final critical piece of intelligence gathering. Ethan was broken, but he wasn't gone. Now I waited to see if he was capable of fighting his mother's ego for the sake of his wife. The atmosphere aboard the Regal Seas had shifted from tropical bliss to Cold War. The disastrous excursion and the subsequent highly charged satellite call had left the Vance family reeling. They were now certain that Clara, the excluded planner, was the invisible hand behind their misfortunes. Ethan, burdened by my demands and his own guilt, spent the afternoon avoiding his mother. He finally cornered her in the ship's lavish but currently empty Commodore lounge, choosing the most visually grand and therefore most stressful location for his mother to lose control. Brenda was impeccably dressed, sipping an expensive glass of chilled white wine, trying to project an air of calm that was completely undermined by the twitching of her eye. Ethan, dear, Brenda purred, setting down her glass. Let's talk about that horrible phone call. Clara is clearly having a nervous breakdown from overwork. We need to focus on what you need, not her hysterics. I don't need anything, Mom, Ethan said, standing stiffly before her. Clara needs something, and I need to fix this. She was right. Brenda's smile hardened. Right about what? That she's not blood. That's a biological fact, Ethan. It's not a slight, it's a boundary. No, she's right that I failed to defend her, Ethan insisted, finally finding his spine. You excluded her to make a statement and I let you. Now she's made her own statement, and it's ruining this entire trip exactly as she planned. Brenda laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. Ruin the trip? You think a tacky banner and a few delayed meals can ruin the Vances? We have money, Ethan. We have class. We simply correct the itinerary. You can't correct the itinerary, Mom. She took the digital steering wheel, Ethan countered. She knows your passwords, she knows your itinerary, and she knows where Aunt Carol keeps her expensive wig on a windy day. This ends now, or she'll make sure every single booking from our flight home to your personal trainer becomes a public systematic fiasco. He sat down, leaning across the small table. Here are the terms of surrender, Mom. Clara wants two things. First, she wants a public acknowledgement that she is a permanent essential member of this family. A video on Facebook from me. Brenda's composure finally shattered. A video? Absolutely not. You will not undermine my authority for that vengeful graphic designer. This is non-negotiable, Ethan. It is non-negotiable for her mom, Ethan said, holding her gaze. And if I don't do it, she won't stop. You already know what she's capable of. Brenda's face flushed crimson. She looked around the empty lounge, ensuring no staff member could overhear this catastrophic breakdown. Fine, she spat, her voice low and venomous. You can make your video, Ethan. Undermine your mother's shame the family, do what your wife demands, but there's a price for this kind of disloyalty. And the second thing, Ethan asked, bracing himself, the second thing is me. You think Clara is the only one who can plan I booked the most expensive, most exclusive excursion for the final full day tomorrow, a private helicopter tour of the islands. Brenda leaned forward, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The booking is confirmed for 4 seats. Robert, me, you, and cousin Jeremy. That leaves one available seat on the helicopter for an extra guest. It's the ultimate status symbol for this trip, and it's my final gift to the family. I don't understand, Mom. What about the other seat? Brenda smiled, a slow, terrifying return of her signature frozen expression. The extra seat will go to the family member who deserves it most. Robert and I will vote tomorrow morning, and Ethan, you will vote too. She picked up her wine glass. The terms are simple. You vote for cousin Jeremy, confirming that blood is thicker than water and that loyalty remains within the Vance name. You choose the family line and the chaos ends. You vote for Clara, and you will have signed your divorce papers from the Vance family fortune. Do you understand the choice, Ethan? Ethan stared at his mother. The choice wasn't about a helicopter ride. It was about choosing his source of identity, his family's wealth and prestige, or his marriage. He had 3 days left on the cruise to choose. He walked out of the Commodore lounge, his mind reeling. He hadn't just secured a video demand. He had been trapped in the most extravagant, high-stakes test of loyalty Brenda could devise. Ethan spent the next 24 hours in silent agony. The ship was a magnificent, glittering prison. Every time he saw his mother, she offered him that icy, knowing smile. Every time he saw Jeremy, the seasick cousin looked pleadingly at Ethan, knowing the helicopter seat was his ultimate vacation redemption. He retreated to his cabin. Even the synthetic sheets Robert Vance was now allergic to felt like a moral dilemma. He had to choose blood or love. He called me late that evening, using the ship's expensive satellite connection again. Clara, she cornered me, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. She offered a deal. She wants me to vote for Jeremy for the final helicopter tour. If I do, the Vance fortune stays accessible. If I vote for you, I'm out completely. I heard the genuine fear in his voice. Ethan, this isn't about a helicopter. This is about her control. You know what you need to do. I know what I should do, but I don't know what I can do, he confessed. You have no idea how deep the financial ties are, Clara. Every major investment, our retirement fund, even the lease on the Boston apartment, it all has a Vance signature on it. If I choose you, we're building a new life from scratch, and she'll make it hell. If you choose her, you'll be living a lie for the rest of your life, and you'll do it alone. I countered, my voice firm. You let her make the statement that I am disposable. Now you need to make the statement that I am your priority. The consequences are irrelevant. You started this, Ethan, by not defending me. You finish it by choosing me. I hung up, leaving him with the choice hanging in the silence of his cramped, luxurious cabin. The public retraction. The next morning, the ship was buzzing with anticipation. The helicopter tour, the ultimate status symbol, was the only topic of conversation. The entire family gathered for breakfast, awaiting Brenda's final announcement of the voting process. Ethan, however, arrived late, looking exhausted but determined. He was holding his phone, and he didn't sit down. Mom! Ethan said, his voice loud enough to cut through the chatter. Before we vote on the helicopter, I have a statement to make. Brenda smiled sweetly, thinking he was about to publicly endorse the bloodline. Oh, splendid, dear cameras rolling, everyone. Ethan has something lovely to share with the family. She gave a signal to a younger cousin, who immediately pulled out his phone and started filming. Ethan took a deep breath. He didn't look at Brenda. He looked straight into the camera lens, knowing this video would soon be broadcast to the world via Brenda's coveted social media feed. This cruise, Ethan began, his voice shaky at first, was a gift. But gifts shouldn't come with conditions, especially not conditions that exclude the person I chose to spend my life with. Brenda's smile began to falter. My mother, Brenda Vance, made a statement when she organized this trip and deliberately left my wife, Clara Hayes, at home. She said Clara was not blood and not essential. She was wrong, and I was wrong for not stopping her. He paused, gathering his strength. Clara Hayes is my wife. She is the essential person in my life. She is the reason I succeed, the reason I am happy, and she is a permanent, irreplaceable member of the Vance family. If being blood means excluding the person I love, then I choose the person I love. He looked directly at his mother, the fear gone, replaced by clarity. Mom, I am officially stating that your decision to exclude Clara was a mistake, and I apologize to my wife for my failure to defend her. He looked back at the camera. Clara, the apology is public. I made my choice. He ended the recording and immediately uploaded the video to his own Facebook and Instagram feeds, tagging Brenda's account directly. Brenda stood up, knocking her chair backward. Her face was a mask of incandescent fury, a perfect, unfiltered portrait of a matriarch losing control. You insolent boy, she shrieked, no longer caring about the cameras. You chose her over everything we built, over the family name, the final choice. I chose my wife, Ethan stated simply. Brenda gestured wildly to the two envelopes sitting on the table containing the final vote tally for the helicopter. Fine, you want to choose her, you can have her. Robert and I have already voted. Now you cast your vote. Let the consequences be what they may. Ethan walked over to the voting box. He pulled out the final ballot. He wrote one word on the paper, folded it, and dropped it in. Brenda snatched the box, her hands trembling. She pulled out the 3 ballots and unfolded them on the table. Robert Vance, Jeremy. Brenda Vance, Jeremy. Ethan Vance, Clara. It's 3-1, Ethan. Brenda crowed, relief and malice mixing in her voice. Jeremy wins, you get nothing. You lose the helicopter, and you lose your access to the funds. You have ruined yourself. Ethan didn't flinch. I know, Mom, but I did what I had to do. Just as Brenda began her final triumphant verbal assault, a flight attendant from the ship staff approached the table holding a small clipboard. Mrs. Vance, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, the attendant said politely, but we have received an urgent notification regarding the private helicopter tour booking. Brenda turned instantly, regaining her composure. Yes, is there a problem with the manifest? Yes, ma'am, it seems that your gold loyalty account was used this morning to book the 4 seats, but it also executed an immediate final cancellation of the entire tour package. The helicopter booking has been terminated. Brenda stared blankly at the attendant. Cancelled? But I just confirmed the votes. The attendant shrugged. The system shows the cancellation was initiated with the highest security clearance, right after you confirmed the seating this morning. The funds have been refunded to the loyalty account, but the tour is gone. No one is flying. Brenda slowly turned to stare at Ethan, the realization sinking in. Ethan sighed, pulling out his phone. I told you, Mom. The sabotage ends when I make my choice. I chose Clara, but I wasn't going to let you use my choice to hurt Jeremy and Lindsay, so I preemptively canceled the entire helicopter tour this morning. If I don't get to fly, neither does anyone else. The final status symbol is grounded. The silence in the lounge was absolute. Brenda Vance had lost the game on every single front, the exclusion, the sabotage, the loyalty test, and now the final most expensive symbol of her status.